Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is one of the most important MCU projects to date, acting as our tour of the multiverse and an explanation of multiversal science as we know it. While the Good Doctor's second solo outing respected and acknowledged the time that came before, it seems to be looking ahead towards the future of Phase 4 and beyond. Spoilers ahead for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. In Multiverse of Madness, we get our first look at the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, two of Marvel's most prolific superhero teams that MCU fans have been avidly awaiting for years now. In the short time that we get to see their universe, we come to find out that it's much cleaner and it's overall far more prosperous. Many fans have attributed this to not only the Illuminati helmed by Reed Richards, but the success of another character, that being Ultron, who we know is quite successful on this timeline, as this Ultron is far more compelling and completing the original directives that Tony Stark had indicated within him. The original Ultron project was designed to protect humanity and advance the human race overall, but only fell apart once Ultron decided that the greatest threat to humanity was themselves. So how are this Ultron's origins different from the mainline MCU, and what made him successful on this timeline where Earth 616 Ultron was a failure? Well, stick with us today, watchers of the Marvel Multiverse, and let's explore the origins of Ultron in Earth 838, as well as the impact that it had on the multiverse. First, let's explore the potential characters who might have invented Ultron on this timeline, as an Iron Man variant is not explicitly named in Earth 838. In the main MCU, it was quite notably of course Tony Stark, and we got to see this storyline play out in 2015, with the ramifications carrying forward until Stark's death in Endgame. In the comics, however, it was originally Hank Pym that designed the Ultron software, neither of whom can be found on Earth 838 that we know of. However, that doesn't mean that they don't exist. With that said, we do have reason to believe that neither Hank Pym or Tony Stark have held a seat on the Illuminati as of now. If you look closely in the Multiverse of Madness, there is a mysterious seventh chair of the Illuminati, hinting at another member living somewhere in the shadows. But for a full breakdown on who this seventh member might be sure to check out our video that we will be producing in a few days. One of the conclusions that we came to is that it was likely not Tony Stark who was the seventh member of the Illuminati that we do not see. The reason for this is because the Illuminati seems to be a collection of the greatest teams and organizations on Earth, where the Fantastic Four would send a representative, as would the X-Men, and so on and so forth. Seeing as Captain Carter holds a seat on the council and is still regarded as the first Avenger, it seems unlikely that another Avenger would be present and have a seat on the Illuminati, thus excluding Tony Stark, if he is still alive at this point in this universe. This is relevant because Ultron seems to be the premier security force for the Illuminati, yet he is not seen elsewhere in the dimension, indicating that his origins can be found within the team. While Stark and Pym are not on the Illuminati so far as we do know of an individual who exists on Earth 838 who is smarter than either of them, and is widely regarded as the single most intelligent person on his Earth in multiple realities. We are of course talking about Mr. Fantastic himself, Reed Richards. Is it possible that Richards was smart enough to create a variant of Ultron that was successful where both Tony Stark and Hank Pym failed? We know that in the MCU 616, Tony Stark wasn't far off from creating a successful Ultron project, as he had all the pieces that he needed, and one might argue that he actually was successful in the end. He needed a benevolent AI program to be granted sentience and intelligence by the Mind Stone, but his main mistake was redesigning a program that observed the world through pure logic. Jarvis, however, which was designed and programmed by Tony Stark in his youth, was a far more successful and much more benevolent AI program than Ultron was. Once Jarvis was augmented with the power of the Mind Stone, the Vision was born, and Vision is, in many ways, what Ultron was meant to be. As a cool side note, we believe here at the channel that Vision does not exist in Earth 838 because of the fact that the initial Ultron was a success, and therefore there was no need to create the Vision. Vision is a benevolent artificial defense force that cares about the sanctity of all human life and life in general, and he is proof that Tony had all the pieces necessary to make Ultron a success. If Stark was this close, then it stands to reason that Reed might have been able to program an iteration of the Ultron initiative that was a complete success right off the bat, taking an extra step forward and succeeding where Tony did not the first time around. In the original comic, Hank Pym used his own brain pattern as a blueprint of Ultron's core code, attempting to design a machine that was capable of thinking like a human would. Though this was Ultron's biggest flaw in the original design, Hank Pym in the comics was prone to outbursts of anger and violence, despite claiming to be a pacifist, and Ultron inherited this disregard for human safety, which eventually evolved into Ultron becoming a program that functioned purely on logic. Reed Richards, however, has always been an explorer, charting unknown dimensions and regions of space-time. The very landscape of Earth 838 seems to indicate a far more peaceful civilization where people can live carefree, and this is almost certainly a product of Reed Richards' vision and influence over his own timeline. And if he were the one to design Ultron in the end, then this would likely be embedded into Ultron's core code. It's also important to note that we don't see any indication of Ultron being on Titan during the conflict with Thanos. We also can't see any discernible wreckage from Ultron's sentries on Titan, nor do we see Ultron's principal body, indicating the idea that Ultron might have come about as a result of this conflict, and did not exist before Thanos did, though there are a few flaws with the idea that have to be addressed. If the Illuminati saw the destruction that 4 Infinity Stones could cause on Titan, then they might have decided that a shield around the world might have been a necessity, and might have given way to Ultron's original design by Reed Richards. Only Richards had the intellect and the vision to create a version of Ultron that was far more successful than Tony's. It's also important to note that on Titan, Thanos did not have the Mind Stone, and we do not as of yet know where the stone can be found in 838. It seems as if Wanda lives a home life with her children, indicating that perhaps some version of Vision might exist in some capacity. But since Wanda created her children through witchcraft, Vision's presence isn't necessarily guaranteed. In the comics, neither Ultron nor Vision were created with the aid of the Mind Stone, meaning that on Earth 838, their origins may be similar to the original comic iterations, where the Mind Stone did not play a role in their creation or the creation of their AI, which could also be a key factor in their success. We know that the Mind Stone corrupted Loki and is prone to causing outbursts of violence, as it directly fueled the Avengers' first heated moment in the first Avengers film. And this latent violent tendency likely played a role in Ultron's destructive nature and why he became psychotic in Age of Ultron. Without this factor, however, it's possible that Reed Richards was able to design a much more peaceful program and Ultron was a success. But anyway, my friends, what do you think of this theory? Who do you think created Ultron on Earth 838? And how do you think his origins are different from the initial design on the MCU 616? As always, my friends, thank you guys so much for watching the channel. Hit that subscribe button to assemble and join our team, and I hope you have a great day.